We're joined in the studio by Professor James Boys. He's a politics professor at Richmond International College. That's a US college here in London. Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, what do you make of this choice?
I think it's fascinating. Here we have Barack Obama, who's been talking about change from day one, over 12 months now, and when he gets to make his first decision, his most defining stand so far, he chooses a white male senator from Washington, D.C. Quite what that says about concepts of change, which we're going to be seen under a potential Obama presidency, I think are quite revealing.
Do you think perhaps, though, he's playing it safe to implement the change he wants, he has to get into the White House, and maybe he needed something to balance him?
Well, this is possible, but when you consider what it is that he's balancing, are we going to talk about age, for example, ethnicity? In the past, presidential candidates have chosen someone on a geographical split. So, for example, in 1960, President Kennedy, who has often been compared to Barack Obama, chose Lyndon Johnson from Texas to split the ticket geographically. Kennedy from the north, Johnson from the south. But with Johnson, you've got the idea that if he can carry his own state of Texas, that's incredibly valuable for winning the White House. Joe Biden's from Delaware. Delaware is a tiny state with hardly any electoral college votes. So even if he carries his own state of Delaware, it doesn't really help an awful lot.
Well, let's look outside of the United States. We know that Joe Biden has a lot of experience when it comes to foreign politics, but what are his views?
Well, this is someone who has no great objection with the idea of American foreign policy being demonstrated on a global scale. He does not shrink from the idea of US engagement on a global scale. He's someone who will bring to the Democratic ticket kudos on foreign policy. What you see here is Barack Obama very much trying to cover himself. He realises that he's weak on foreign affairs and international relations. And in bringing in Senator Biden, he's clearly trying to inoculate himself against claims of inexperience in the election in November.
He's a very outspoken man. I had a little look on YouTube, and putting Joe Biden in, you know, makes some pretty funny bits come up. I let the viewers do that at home. But being so outspoken may be a little bit difficult because he has to be careful not to put a foot wrong over the next few months, because potentially he could actually damage Barack Obama.
This is one of the most interesting questions which should always be asked about a vice presidential candidate. Do they help or hinder the top of the ticket, which is what people vote on? People are going to be dwelling upon Biden for the next couple of days, and then when McCain comes to office, the same thing. But ultimately, people vote on the top of the ticket. Joe Biden's going to have to stay on message, which is something which he has shown a clear lack of ability to do over the course of his career, quoting and misquoting British politicians in the past, for example, which is clearly, I think, going to come back to haunt him as we move into the election in the fall.
What about John McCain now? All eyes pointed on him. What do you think he'll do?
John McCain has the luxury, if you will, of going second. He gets to see and to gauge the reaction which Senator Biden's selection generates. If I'm in his position, you're going to wait, see exactly what that reaction is. It does give McCain the opportunity to do something different, something groundbreaking, perhaps to put a woman on the ticket to try and shore up this idea that he's no longer the change candidate. I still think he'll go with Charlie Crist from Florida myself.
Well, we'll see if that's true.
Okay.
James Boys, thank you very much for joining us.